Hello everyone, this is Javier Correa, the Tax Terminator, back live from Bogota, Colombia. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some insights into Colombian tax because this is a wonderful country, but many foreigners come here without understanding the system. And today, everything you need to know. Hi there. So this is the Tax Terminator. I'm here in Bogota, Colombia, one of our favorite places to come to here in Latin America. Wonderful city, great for dating, great for eating out, great for having fun. You know, Colombia is just a fun country overall. And it's definitely a capital that we enjoy coming to as, part of the Nomad Capitalist team. You know, a lot of our clients like coming here as well. It's definitely a very interesting location to consider when you're exploring South America. It is also a very affordable location, which is why it is so attractive for many foreigners who want to maybe access a cheaper cost of living, who want to live the high life on that digital nomad visa, or who want to essentially leverage the income that they can essentially get through a location-independent job or a location-independent business that sells to Western clients. However, one of the things that is often overlooked by many people who want to explore Colombia is the fact that from a tax perspective, Colombia is just not that attractive. So while it is fun, while the cost of living is very low, from a tax perspective, it just is not as attractive as a Panama or a Uruguay or a Dominican Republic. So let me break it down into two major categories for you. Number one is if you have a residence permit, so you can have easier access to Colombia, then you're in a much better situation because essentially Colombia will deem you a tax resident via the days test, meaning that if you spend less than 183 days, you're good to go. You're not a tax resident of Colombia. So that is good. So if you have a digital nomad visa, a residence permit linked to some kind of investment or something like that, you're in a much more flexible position. However, if you married a lucky Colombian lady or a lucky Colombian gentleman, or if you've obtained Colombian citizenship through whatever means is available to you, then you are essentially not in such an ideal situation. So while Colombia does not have citizenship-based taxation like the United States does, Colombia does have very strict tax residence rules for citizens that can make it very difficult for them to leave. So let me give you a brief overview. If you're a Colombian citizen and your family is in Colombia, you can be deemed a Colombian tax resident just by virtue of having your wife and kids here, even if you spend minimal or zero time here. Number two, if most of your income comes from Colombia, even if you spend 0 days in Colombia, you can be considered a tax resident here. If you leave Colombia and you relocate to a jurisdiction that is deemed to be a tax haven by the Colombian tax authorities, it is very likely that your departure will be challenged by these tax authorities here in Colombia, and you may still be considered a Colombian tax resident. In addition to that, if your wealth is managed and controlled from Colombia, that can also be an issue. And there are a ton of more criteria that could be used against you to determine that you're still a tax resident of Colombia, even if you spend virtually no time here. So for citizens of Colombia, tax non-residents can be tricky. Again, I don't want to scare anyone. It's not like the US. Colombians can actually exit their system, but it is one of the trickier systems to leave overall in Latin America, much less friendly again than a Panama or a Uruguay or a Costa Rica or a Dominican Republic. Now, why am I so concerned about telling you the rules of tax residence in Colombia? Well, the main reason is that Colombia's tax rules are some of the most aggressive in the region. So, number one, Colombia has relatively high income taxes, at least compared to other places in the region. Number two, Colombia taxes worldwide income, meaning that you don't have any special treatment for income that comes from abroad. You don't have any remittance-based strategies that you can use. If you're a Colombian tax resident, you're taxed on worldwide income at rates that are really not attractive at all. Number three, Colombia levies a wealth tax. So, I hate wealth taxes because ultimately you're not even potentially generating any income from your assets and you're still having to pay tax on those. And so Colombia also does have a very unattractive wealth tax, which ultimately doesn't make it an ideal destination for wealthy individuals to have their tax home here. And listen, Colombia is not the only one in the region. My country, my homeland, neighboring Venezuela, also has a wealth tax, but it is far less aggressive and much more limited in scope. And if you compare it to some of the other jurisdictions in the regions that I actually do believe are more attractive for tax residents, like a Panama, like a Uruguay, like a DR, like a Costa Rica, they either don't have a wealth tax at all, or like in the case of Uruguay, they have some kind of asset-based tax, but it's limited to local assets only, and you can leverage that territorial system to avoid the tax altogether. So I do think that that is something that you should definitely consider before triggering tax residence here. So if you want to essentially spend time in Colombia and you are potentially triggering that tax residence, what are the strategies that are available to you? Well, there's only about one I can think of, and that is that Colombia's controlled foreign corporation rules, which are quite aggressive, essentially target passive income. Meaning that if you are a global entrepreneur and you have that global company, maybe in Panama, maybe in Uruguay, maybe you run it through a US LLC or whatever it may be, and you're legitimately providing services to unrelated third parties, it's an active trader business, and your company has staff, employees, people that are actively managing the business abroad, then you could potentially say, listen, it's an active business, the CFC rules don't directly apply to me, I can retain earnings in that company, even if it's zero tax or near zero tax, and I only pay Colombian tax on the dividends I take out. But it is a limited strategy. It doesn't allow for much creative, let's say, planning around it. So my ultimate advice would be to everyone to reconsider definitely becoming Colombian tax resident. If you are in the first category that I was mentioning earlier and you're just a foreigner with a residence permit in Colombia, then again, you're in a much easier situation, in a much better scenario, because what you can do is essentially come here, and as long as you spend less than 183 days, you will not be deemed a tax resident. So if you want to come party in Medellin, that's fine. You want to come and enjoy the great dining scene you have in Colombia, the great shopping, you want to enjoy the nature, you want to meet these wonderful people that you can find here in Colombia, then definitely you can do that. And as long as you spend 183 days, you can keep your residence permit and you can also avoid Colombian tax residence rules. So there you have it, folks. Colombia, definitely a wonderful country from a lifestyle perspective, a very interesting country from a cost of living perspective, that I just gave you everything you need to know so that you can avoid paying some definitely undesirable taxes. So if you like this content, subscribe to this YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, drop a comment down below if you like Bogota, Colombia, or Colombia in general. And as usual, the Tax Terminator will be back in the next video.